Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to call the Facilities Committee of the Keystone School Board Directors meeting to order. We have about 4 items on the agenda today. I asked that we put this one on first about the water runoff issue that the folks from the Homestead area brought to us at our last meeting. And I think Rob has done some legwork on that in the meantime. And we have on here a presentation or a recommendation, I should say, for a survey to be done to actually find out where the actual boundaries are, or what belongs to Keystone and what belongs to the township and what have you. So Rob, maybe you can bring us up to speed here on why you're making this recommendation and how will that help solve the problem?
I think that the first piece of it is we don't know where the lines are. And Elizabeth did share, there is one marker out there. We don't have another point. You almost need 2 points to get anywhere with it. I just think that it's kind of the first step in seeing whether these ditches are on our property, their property. We can get a clear understanding of who has what back there, because I asked like my guys when they mow, I said, where is the line? They said, we haven't known for years, those sorts of things. So it's first step on it. And then once we figure out where the lines are, then we can start to address what our next step will be, how we want to address things with them. I think bottom line is that there's some liability with the developer in there, but the developer's gone. So, it's kind of back and forth and want to be good neighbors. So I think it's just a way to start this.
Well, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I think it probably is a good idea to see where everything is, where the lines are, and is it a problem of ours or not? If it is, and then we deal with it.
Right.
I think it would be I think it's a cautious step. Yes, it's going to be $3,500, but I feel like it's a cautious step because if we start to rectify the situation and then later find out that we're not even on our property trying to rectify a situation, that could cost us a lot more money.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't really want to go out there and have anybody do anything until we're clear, and nobody wants to touch it until I can show them where the lines are, because once going side to side on that, it's a big deal. And they say that the cost shouldn't exceed, or is not. They say if they find some of the points, the cost could actually be below that, but they give us like a not to exceed number on that. And that's typically how we've done our surveys. Once we have it, we'll mark it with steel post, or steel rebar in the ground and pins, so that we have the line, mark it in our maps at the office. And then, in the future, hopefully 20 years from now, when somebody else is looking for those, they can at least reference that we had the survey and there's pins in those sorts of things. But right now, there's just the one that Elizabeth shared with us. She sees when she walks her puppies out there.
That's even.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is that ours? Is it there? Or, what is it? Is it a corner?
Is it pink, Elizabeth? Is it pink?
It's a typical survey rebar with pink flagging tape on it on the top, or could be orange, but orange.
Yeah.
Where exactly is it?
Okay, you've walked the site?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm pretty familiar with that back there.
Okay. Homestead Estates has a freestanding, I'll use the word dumpster. It's where they collectively put their trash. If you're in the parking lot in the new addition,
Right. I know
Okay.
exactly where that is.
you look to your left, you're looking at I'll call it a mound of dirt. You're looking up at the woods, you look to your left, and halfway between the exit of a storm drain, the cement culvert, and the trash disposal area, right up there in the middle of the hill, you'll see the pin.
I know exactly where you're talking
I believe there's one near my yard. It's a piece of
Can you
rebar
use that?
pounded into the. Sorry, I think there's one in my yard or near my yard because it's a piece of rebar pretty far pounded into the ground with a pink ribbon on it. So I didn't know who did that,
Well, see, that's the thing. There's no documentation.
but it just appeared maybe 3 weeks ago.
Someone did survey one of those properties. There's but that house is about 2, 3, 4 houses north of where we're talking,
Mhm.
between the football field, wet
Yes,
fence and the.
yes. That's
And
exactly
so-
what we're talking.
And sometimes when they do an additional survey like that, they record some of that stuff within the county. And that helps us offset some of our costs because they've done some work now and there's some stuff that's recorded. They'll go down and they'll search that and then they'll use some of that data. But for me, it's a first step so that I know when I walk out there where we're at, because I don't really know totally what we own out there and what they own. And it's
Mhm.
never been a point of contention, but obviously at this point, it could become a little more contentious. So I would recommend that we move the thing along as a first step.
Have we used Carriola before?
Yeah, he did the baseball field at up at your thing. And yeah, I know all these surveyors, you're at their mercy on schedule and.
That's, I was
think
gonna
that's
suggest
really-
you put something in here about
Yeah.
timeliness.
I
I know it
Yeah.
says about something about convenience or something that this can.
Yeah, I totally agree with Butch.
but
Yeah,
I've dealt with.
At
him-
least a window.
I've
can he-
dealt with him before.
yeah, we did that on the last one and I
He did a map survey for Capitaneous Water Authority about 7 years ago. And we still haven't got the map from him.
So,
A little slow.
what's a reasonable time frame that the board would like to see on the contract?
Well,
I would probably put 90 days in there. Once we award it, we want the work to be completed in 90 days.
with a map.
I was gonna say 30 days to start it, 90 days to complete it.
Yeah, because if we are going to have to make any further steps on this on our end, we want to do it before winter.
Right.
I mean,
If,
I would
if
say-
possible, right? Because we did tell the group that we would do our best to solve it. We did say it takes time, but I mean, I think we can see what they say about this. My other concern with this actual contract, and Rob, I mentioned this to you, is it says it's with the middle school.
Yeah,
And
he did
he
send
would
me an updated one.
We would need the contract that's approved would have to say Keystone Central School District and then reference the middle school.
Yeah,
But
he
you can't
sent
make a
me-
contract with the school.
I contacted them and they did update. I think I don't know if I sent that one over to you. I do have an updated contract that has
Okay.
Keystone Central on it. I
Okay.
thought I sent that to you, but I might not have.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is there's consensus that we would move forward with this surveying as the first official step in the process of addressing the water runoff issues. And that will make some adjustments to the contract. I'm hearing a 30 days to start from approval. The earliest this could get approved would be that our March voting meeting.
Right,
I'm sorry, yes, May. Starts with
I
M.
don't wanna wait
May.
for work.
Okay, so May voting meeting, then 30 days from the May voting to start it and 90 days to completion. And then the completion includes the documents.
I just had one last question.
Okay,
Thank you. I can't tell by the contract, or maybe and I can't tell by this map. Is he gonna be doing the entire north-south length all the way to the Mill Hall Borough line right before the field? Or if he's gonna be there, because if he's shooting it, he might as well just shoot the whole line, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Going the whole way down past Joni's and all that through the back there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
When I talked to him, I told him the area we were concerned with, where we mow and have to come over, but we can ask him to continue down through that.
go all the way to Beach Creek Avenue because, not Beach Creek, I'm so sorry. You know what I'm saying, the Mill Hall access
Mhm, I do. know what
that
you mean.
divides up the district from Tom's place, the farm field.
Right.
Just
I-
go, because eventually those are all gonna be issues, especially if we ever put, who knows in the future.
I get where you're
It
saying.
can't cost more money.
And
'cause
it's
he's
not a lot,
shooting-
once they get out there and have the GPS set up, it's not a lot of change in dollars.
So could we-
Most of their legwork is their office
Yeah, as
work
long
and
as
their
it's not-
mapping.
as long as it's not going to cost us a
Yeah.
ton more money.
I explained the area that I needed surveyed And I didn't tell them to go the whole way out to Bald Eagle Avenue, but I'll ask them if they can get
I
us
mean,
some
not Bald
reference.
Eagle Avenue.
I know
mean,
what you mean, the whole way out to the end of the,
to where right
Right.
before the fields,
Right.
where the Mill Hall Borough has the right of way.
yeah, and I'll work with them to try and get as much as I can within the price we have allotted on
It's-
that.
Because
It's
there
really-
are some people in Homestead that I'm sure they don't know where their boundary is. And when they're planting trees and building gardens and putting in
You're
sheds,
saying the whole line, not just.
I think you're gonna
portion
find you
of
own a
it.
little more land over there than you actually do, but that's just assumption.
From what I
Okay.
can see on this one, this one has color on it, but it looks like it's this whole line is being referenced all the way out to where you're talking about.
Right, well, that's the thing.
Right?
It actually, the keystone ends here, but the line keeps going. He's showing a boundary line.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it actually is from here to, that's the actually keystone.
Because
is
this
from here
is,
to here.
this is McLean's.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's Mill Hall Borough X, right away, right there, Mill Hall Borough.
Okay.
It's
So
just a
what
straight
I'm hearing
line.
is that we're gonna move forward with some adjustments to the contract. Do you want to see the contract again before it's moved forward? If he can give us the adjustments, you are okay putting it on the May agenda?
Yeah, if you just want to highlight the changes in a different color, just so everyone knows, that'd be super terrific.
Yeah, if we're gonna put it on,
And if it's not ready for May, we'll get it ready for June.
They're usually pretty quick to get the changes back. Kind of along the lines of what Butch was saying with them, I think from 7, 8 years ago, when I had dealt with them that long back also, they were a little slower back then. I think they have more employees. I think they have a shop in Lock Haven now. They seem to get things done. a little
Well,
quicker
for
than
some
they used
reason, he
to.
doesn't want to agree to the parameters the board is seeking, then we'll just, immediately begin to look for someone who wants to do the work that you're requesting, okay?
and
And then
I
we'll-
would really like to be able to get it approved at the May meeting, so we can get the
Yeah. me
clock
too.
ticking on it.
All right, we'll do our
And
best.
Even if we wait, if we give them 30 days to start the work or do the work and 90 days to complete it, if we do it in May, you're looking at end of September, or middle of September. The time we have to do something there, now you're back.
Are we
in
saying
March.
90 days from the time that we approve it,
Prove it.
which
I
would
think-
take us till the end of the summer?
Yeah.
If he can
So-
do it in a shorter time frame, because he's shooting a straight line, and I know where the benchmark things are there. I've had my property surveyed. It took him, I had my survey map within days, of course, but this is a straight line. So Rob, please ask him how soon would be reasonable, please.
Okay, I can do that.
Thank
I'll-
you.
I'll report back. Can we just do that through an email? How quickly I can do it and how the
Yeah.
turnaround? I just send, I
Yeah,
can
that-
call Dean in the office that I deal with and we can just send an email saying this is a turnaround and they think they can hit these parameters.
Yeah. super
That's
terrific.
fine. That's fine. Yeah, but, hopefully they get that contract ready.
Yeah, like I said, I think I'm searching my email because I was almost definite. I called down and I said it had to say Keystone Central School District, not Central Mountain Middle School. And I thought I got one back, so.
I didn't see an updated one, but we need to
I-
make sure we have the right one.
Right.
Yeah, the one that Wanda has here, it says Keystone Central on it, but it's, oh, okay. It references it in the front, but not in the back, so I'll have it taken
The one
care of.
the one that's on this,
I printed mine off of here. The first one says Keystone Central, Central Mountains Middle School.
yeah, but the actual agreement for services,
Okay,
thank you.
All right. All right, moving on. The second item on some of just informational kind of things. The rest of the agenda items. The update on the facility projects that we have in the works.
Just a couple things that are moving along right now. The Rob parking lot will be done late spring, early summer. Rob was finishing up some permitting on that with the city, and we expect that to go relatively, as soon as school's out, if not even before, some of that work might be done.
Yeah, so you're gonna kind of wait till school's out. to start.
Yes, but
Okay.
the kids are
Very good.
done on June 1, so it's a pretty early out this year. So we're going to get right on that.
Do they have any idea how long it'll take them to do the project?
they had developed a schedule. I've asked for a revised schedule. I think it's about 6 weeks. And we're gonna try and coordinate so that we get the overlay of the other parking lot and all that done at nearly the same time. the first step will be moving the fence. The fence came Thursday. So I'll work with Tyler. We may start to get that fence back and then they can start their concrete work in that. So it's starting to move along.
The next one is that Rob was able to get a price back for the Central Mountain Middle School canopy, the removal and replacement. He had it priced both ways. One with them removing the asbestos and then them removing the whole thing and tearing it down, or one where they do the asbestos removal and then our people, take apart the pieces. So we believe that us taking apart them doing the asbestos piece and us doing the other stuff in-house is the most fiscally responsible way to manage that project. So we are still following up with Crabtree and Jeff Straub, who's here today, on what will we do if we take that down, what goes up? And right now, I don't want to take that down until we know what's going up. I don't want a big eyesore there. And we're not looking for any big grand entrance because on that facility, there's two big, grand entrances on either end of the building, with the auditorium entrance and the gymnasium entrance. And so we really just need something that is an overhang there to protect from the weather and, maybe some signage that it's the main office. So we're going to continue to work on that, but we don't want to take that down until we have a whole project at one shot. The stage curtains, they were approved for order on Thursday. Elizabeth, I know you had a prior commitment, but I did get an answer back to what you had asked about can the existing curtains be treated? The answer to that came back as yes, they can be treated with chemicals. However, in the condition that he saw them, there was some dry rot. And so it wouldn't make sense to treat them. And even if he did, the lifespan would be 5 to 7 years.
Okay, no, thank you very much, but that's good to know, because even though this fabric is flame resistant, we never talk about this, what the cleaning, what you want as far as your cleaning regimen, knowing that we're gonna have to budget for that.
He actually shared that with us
how many
in the
years?
information and like the vacuuming and then the way to do the vacuuming, which can be done in-house as long as it's done this proper way. And so I don't think that that is even going to really have a huge impact as long as it's included in the cleaning schedule.
Do you need equipment for that?
We have the lifts and stuff we can get in and they could get up, up high and that on them.
Okay.
I don't know if Bucktail we can get to, I don't think we can drive out onto the stage at Bucktail because of the height difference, but most of them we can get up to. So
Well,
I think
just
we're
let us
pretty good.
know, okay?
But they'll be in place for start of school year.
If they come in,
Yeah. Once again, we still have supply chain issues. Even getting pricing back on stuff is getting tough because everybody's, I don't know if they're just stretched thin or what, but pricing's taking longer than ever to get back.
so we haven't heard much about the girls' locker room project yet because they were using it throughout the year and we couldn't get in there to tear that apart because of the use during the school year. So we are going to start finalizing some of that this summer. I'm hoping we can get the whole thing done this summer, but we might need to piecemeal that a little bit because that will be needed to be used in the fall for visiting teams. And then obviously there's some other things that we're getting pricing on. We're working on the exterior doors. Rob got some updated pricing on the doors. We do want to use that PCCD grant dollars, but of course the doors are coming in more expensive than originally planned. And of course there, 6 to 8 month delays on getting doors. And so we're trying to do as much as we can within the parameters of the grant, and we'll keep you updated on the door process.
Just
So
by chance, is there a less expensive door that might be more available? I mean, I know it's extra
There-
layer, but
There's, in the commercial world, there's the insulated doors like we want, or a glass door. That's really the choices.
right.
And there's
Yeah.
only 2 companies making the flush line doors, as I'll call them, the insulated flush doors, Conair and Specialite. And
it's
one is 8 months and one is a year and a half.
yeah.
Two
So
companies?
You're asking the same questions I asked
just-
yesterday.
Well, I know, no,
Yeah,
but
that
it's
was
good to
the-
know this
that was
because,
the exact question she asked me yesterday afternoon. It's like, I mean, and then hardware on doors. Some of the hardware, we wait on doors 6 to 8 months to get hardware. So
It's ridiculous.
So we're working on it. I know what we share with the board is we'd like to use this grant for the doors and then we would be able to take that out of the 10-year plan. It's still in the 10-year plan. I thought it came out, but it is still in there. And the PCCD grant dollars, They told us we were getting them in August because it was non-competitive if you filled out the stuff. We filled out the stuff in time. Then they made everybody wait 6 months until they gave us approvals, and they were very adamant in their emails that you cannot supplant or spend any dollars until your grant's approved. So you're holding off on 6 months on a 24 window to spend stuff in a supply chain time. So we're working on getting that rectified. You may or may not see a contract for doors in May. I'd like to get something moving for that, even if it's partial, if at least as many as we can within the amount of the grant, at least get that going and then worry about another funding source. If we may or may not get additional PCCD dollars in out years. The folks I've talked to said it's likely, but you can't count on it. So we could potentially split it up across, a different grant, or worst case scenario, figure out the urgency for some of those doors and then chip them in some out years if they're not absolutely urgent.
Can they go under a safety grant maybe?
That's what PCCD is.
But I mean, in a future,
Well, we are looking at 2 other potential grants, but we were looking for other items for those grants. But if possible, we can't pay for it here. We will look and see if there's another one available. And like I said, I feel more confident that we would get additional PCCD money in subsequent years, or the possibility that when they realize what everybody's dealing with, will they extend the deadline for the grant?
they will. They
And
have
so
to.
we could, well, they don't have to, but we could ask.
Right.
So that's where we are in those current projects. And I feel like there was something else you just gave me, Rob. One of the other things on the 10-year plan is insulating the middle school, Center Mountain Middle School field house. We've talked about it. We're spending a lot of money on electricity there. I just got this afternoon. I have not had a chance to read it yet, but we'll come back with a recommendation on that, and when we're ready to push forward for that.
What do we use the field house for?
Have you ever been inside?
Yes.
We don't
No, I
use
mean,
it.
Butch,
What?
have you ever been inside? We should use.
The field house isn't used during the winter, but what we run into is the way the pipes are, they're above the insulation in the ceiling. So we have to drain the building, and we can't use the building in the shoulder months, I'll call them. And that's when the teams really want it. We watch the weather, and then we go over and we get the building going. And sometimes it's a week to get all the pipes, everything going, all the flush valves back on, everything ready to go, the toilets,
Mhm.
those sorts of things. So we feel if we insulate the building, we can
Mhm.
maintain a minimal heat in the winter time in there, and we won't have to worry about the pipes freezing. And then we can also use it
Mhm.
later into the year. If they were playing in November in football, we can't use that building
Mhm.
with water because we're in freezing temperatures. And
Thank
the
you for
same
bringing this up.
in
It's been-
March.
Yeah, it's been on our list for a while. It's scheduled to be done in the 23-24 school year. So once we get through this contract and this quote, it looks like it came in lower than what we anticipated. But I want to have time to read over it with Rob and Joni at our next meeting. And then, so if you don't see it on the May agenda, you'll see it probably in June, because it wouldn't be completed until after July 1.
Well, did they ever spray foam that roof on the inside? I never. I don't
No,
know.
No.
it's what
I
it
didn't
is,
think
is there's
so, yeah.
insulation just right on the top of the
That's what I-
thing, and
yeah.
then there's pipe. So the plan is to come in and spray foam the cavity of it.
That'll
and
be
then-
huge, huge.
And then we'll look at some stuff right now. It's heated by electricity. We'll look and see if we can't get a gas furnace in there versus the electric furnace. So couple pieces to it, but what we can do to save as much as we possibly can on it and actually
Mhm.
use the structure, because it is a nice
It's
structure.
built like a tank.
It's nice, but it's just my guys struggle,
Oh, it's a waste of your time. It's a waste. of
Well, I
staff
think
time.
for all the more it's going to be, the amount of man hours that it's going to save in electricity. I really wonder why we didn't do it when we did the envelope upgrade at the middle school. We probably should have included it in that project then, but at any rate, we're moving forward with it. So as soon as we have that rectified, you should see that coming through as well.
No, it's money well spent, certainly. Especially for future use. Anything else on any of those updates on those projects?
Well, just one other thing on that, Jeff, and because you'll ask the question, I did ask for R38, so it meets the current energy standards, so that if they do something in the future, we're meeting all the current standards, rather than just a little bit of insulation, we're going to the R38, which required.
I
by
thought you said
current code.
R8. I'm like.
No, 38.
I almost said heart attack,
But
Rob.
we have it
That's
covered.
wonderful.
I
gonna
figured
pay
you'll
off.
ask that in another meeting, so yeah, we got
Mhm.
it. That's all covered.
Super terrific.
All right, next item.
The next item. So David Lindsay contacted me with regards to the potential need for a title search at the Liberty Curtain property. He said that, there was some question as to whether or not there's a water easement issue there that may have been on previous titles. So I authorized him to do a full title search on the Liberty Curtain property. He was able to get that back to me to, he typed it up on the 21st of April, and I received it today on hard copy. I also forwarded that to Jeff Straub earlier today. And basically what it says is that in a prior deed, there was a reference to an existence of an easement, which no longer appears in subsequent deeds. So like 3 deeds prior. And he said, it was not on the deed when the property was conveyed to the Keystone Central School District. Nonetheless, the easement has never been abandoned or extinguished. So it still could possibly exist, but he felt that with the regards to the current project, that it would be a non-issue. And then I've also sent the documentation, all this forward to the architect, who has already let me know that where the water easement is not going to be an issue with regards to where this project is sitting. So it's a non-issue, but it was definitely researched and cleared up. So that was all I had on that.
Any questions on that? Okay, that brings us to
Jeff
the
Straub.
Liberty Curtain project update.
So Jeff and Drew are here and joining us online, and Jeff is going to be able to share his screen. But before you jump into that, I just did add in here as just an extra reference for the group, the Liberty Curtain facility project update that we gave to the community, Brett and I and Rob. And then the kind of had the Liberty Curtain timeline on from when we started the facility study and the 10-year plan in 2020 to the potential of the move-in in 2025. And so you can see that it's been a multi-year process and where we are, and we're currently right in the middle of that timeline in 2023 with the building design, site prep, and so forth. So I'm going to turn that over to you, Jeff, if you want to share your screen.
And
Okay.
before Jeff starts, so that we can go through the whole thing, I asked that everybody just hold any questions they have till the end, so he can go through his whole presentation. All right.
Okay, great.
Yours.
Can everybody hear us?
Yep.
Okay. And our presentations come up on the screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So we'll be giving a quick update today. I think a lot of today is we've spent a lot of time sort of in the background with engineering teams, the entire design team getting up to speed, starting surveys on site, scheduling those components. So we'll talk about those steps a little bit. And then we're also going to talk about what's going to be occurring over the next month or two. Okay. So updated floor plan, and generally the floor plan has not changed substantially from what everybody's seen before. What we're now working on is small nuances throughout the entire building, and those are feedback that's coming from the principal, information that's being passed on from staff, whether it's features, special education, really, especially educational spaces in the building. And making small modifications. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And it's predominantly occurring sort of in the central core of the building, sort of the main lobby, as well as reaching back as far as the special educations and learning support. And some of this is still in process as we proceed. Okay. What we're also working on is concentration of views throughout the school with program adjustments. So we want to be careful that as we move things around in the building, that we don't destroy or eliminate views that we were trying to concentrate, for instance, through the building, through the media center. That's not only, so that visually we create a strong layout of the building for just, the comfort and enjoyability of everybody in the building, but we're also incorporating crime prevention through environmental design for safety concerns. An example would be, how is law enforcement, if something would occur at the building, how does law enforcement come in that main entrance, and do they have strong views through the media center down into the building so that they can clear a building and move through that. And that's always an unusual, trying to balance having that glass, allowing law enforcement to see, but then also how would a perpetrator, see through the building. So we'll be incorporating, even though those views, especially safety glazing, laminated glazing, things of that nature. So this is just an example of some of those views through some of the primary views as you come in the entrance. We still have the ability that we can lock down classroom wings that'll be tied to the main office. So all those sort of nuances within the building. Okay. Next floor plan. So zooming in on this a little bit, and this is sort of some of the, just bulleting some of the changes that have been occurring. Previously, we had sort of more storage toilets, sort of just adjacent to the administration. And what we were realizing is that was blocking views into the media center for what we just discussed. So we've actually flipped some of those support spaces across so that the media center now opens to the main lobby. We've also begun working on some adjustments to special education, small group instruction, from some feedback we've received from the principal, accommodating autistic support and direct adjacency to the administration. We have looked at both small group instructions occur over in the second, third, fourth grade wing versus the K1. We're working through that right now. We're going to want to discuss that with the administration. That's a balancing act of trying to have it at both locations of the building so that one wing doesn't have to go to the other wing. So those are things that aren't finalized, but we're still working through those. Okay. We also worked at relocating the faculty and restrooms at the main lobby. Really, this is more sort of a very simple flipping of those spaces to get the toilets closer to the main lobby, push faculty back a little bit further, and just how does somebody experience the buildings? Most notably, if somebody's coming to use the building after hours, that may not know the building quite as well. Our restrooms, those necessities directly available versus even having to walk 20 or 30 feet down the hallway. And we'll be balancing that through the whole process. Okay. We also looked at relocating the second, third, and fourth grade wings bathrooms. Again, previously we had restrooms here adjacent to administration, and we had that second bank at this location that was going to access that wing. And I believe it had been mentioned at this meeting previously about getting those closer to the second, third, fourth. So by making the one flip here and then relocating those toilets here, they now have very close proximity to that grade structure. So these are the sort of the nuances that we're working on. We're also working on a separation between the art, music, and learning support, so they're not directly adjacent, that we have program space. Currently the support program, which is support really to be determined, working with the engineers. We want to have adequate space in the building for the engineering team. If we can tighten things up, we will. That might become storage, or it might become electrical rooms, things of that nature in the building. Okay. So homework completed since the last presentation. The team has been transitioning from building modeling from schematic planning to full Revit modeling program for coordination with the design team. So what does that mean? You all see this floor plan on the screen. color coded, and that's developed in a process that occurs very quickly, more in 2 dimension, and it's great for presentations, you know, with clients and how do we move pieces around. But we're now in the stage of transitioning to what's typically used in the building construction industry is Revit modeling program. So it's no longer going to be 2-dimensional. It's going to be full. We've been in the process for the last month and a half of transitioning to full 3-dimensional modeling. And that will be utilized not only by the architectural team, but by the civil engineer, the structural engineer, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers, and even food service, who I don't have on this list right now. So it's, you know, really for presentations with all of us. That's, you know, it's not something that'll be readily be used in these meetings, but it's the necessity of creating the construction documents. Okay. The next piece is the survey team has completed an initial site survey. They were actually out on site last week. And I would note that Rob was also a part of that from those discussions. That the survey will, it won't be just last week. It'll actually be some follow-up in the next month as they complete those. We're also scheduling the geotechnical site work and stormwater perk tests that will be occurring on site. So there's a lot of sort of site scheduling as we get that initial information surveyed, and then into the, just like we're developing the Revit model for the building, the civil engineer will be converting that into the digital site package as well for the project. Okay. And then we also have the civil engineering and landscape architecture team has made preliminary contacts with the municipality and has started to incorporate that information for regulations, setbacks, things of that nature for the project. Okay. And I would note we've also, as the conversation that just occurred, even just today, actually when we had heard about the easement item, I'm going to say a month plus ago, that had immediately provided that to the civil engineering team, and then also followed with the report that was provided this morning. And we have reviewed that preliminary for the civil engineer. And I would note most large commercial projects, just because of the size of the acreage, when you compare to a residential versus a commercial, there's always something that gets, you know, some item that comes up just because of the size of the property. So the civil engineer doesn't see any large concerns with, you know, being aware of that easement concern and incorporating it. Okay. So upcoming plan work by the design team. While there's been a lot of behind the scenes sort of developing the model, what I would say is in the next month to 2 months, when we come back to facilities, expect that you'll start to, you will no longer just be seeing a floor plan. We'll now be getting into the 3-dimensional, as we built that Revit model, the 3-dimensional look at the building. Okay. As well as the interior design components of the building. So when I mentioned interior design for the project, there's two arms to that. One is the physical layouts of how every space is going to look in the building. The other is just what are the materials that are used in hallways? What's the main lobby versus the media center? 3-dimensionally, what does that look like? The first is the interior design layouts. We will be coming up on May 9th and have already been, our interior design team has been working on a schedule for that day to meet with staff for all the educational spaces. So that's not just, you know, for instance, the kindergarten, first grade versus second, third, fourth grade classrooms, but also meeting with administration, meeting with the media center, art, music, special education. Really, you know, every educational space in the building, how do we lay that out? We'll have preliminary layouts for that meeting. It's always better to show up with a layout and then talk about how we that's either approved or adjustments to be needed instead of starting from a blank slate. We'll then take those markups, and we anticipate a second round will occur at the end of May. And then at that time, once that would occur, we would receive sign-offs for all the layouts of all the individual spaces. So that's everything from where casework, sinks might be located in classrooms. We'll show locations of desks, teacher stations. Do we have one teacher station, two teacher stations in a classroom, so that you have some flexibility, things of that nature. And then all that information will be used not only for the interior layouts, but then to turn that over to the engineers. Where do electrical outlets need to go, and all the preceding, components developing into the project. Okay. The next component is we will be developing the exterior design for over the next month. In fact, we have preliminarily started that process because we are building the overall model for the engineers. And we'll be scheduling with the administration to have that preliminary review. We may hit it right off the mark, just like the interior layouts, or we may need to adjust and go through a couple rounds of that. And then ultimately, we would be bringing that also forward to you as for the board, both in facilities and if that also needs to be provided or presented to the overall board, and what method you would like to see for that. Once that occurs, then also following a month later will be not just those interior layouts, but just like we developed the exterior of the building. What is it like to come into the main entrance, stand in the lobby, have a view into the administration for security purposes, or look out from the main reception desk to people coming into the building? What are the views into the gymnasium? Again, not just for how it looks aesthetically, but also thinking about safety, making sure you have those views throughout the building, and how you monitor students, not just for if there's a threat in the building, but also just day to day, which is more likely of students being bullied. We want to make sure that all spaces can be monitored at all time, whether it is a classroom or a hallway space, which nowadays I think more of the bullying occurs in the restrooms, in the hallways, things of that nature, where staff isn't necessarily at all times. Okay. And then we will also be doing a budget update for the project. Really, we're holding on that piece right now, mostly because of the site survey. I want to see, how that occurs. We've actually had some discussions because of some of the wet soils out towards more to the front building, where we're already planning on putting the stormwater pond, but we might push the building a little bit closer to the existing building, and then also work out phasing with everybody. Okay. And really, that is the overview of where we are, both in the last month plus, month and a half, as well as moving forward for the next month or two. So anticipate that you'll start to see, for instance, those 3D designs, that we bring those forward, as well as the interior layouts. And then I just have some extra slides, more of the existing building, the schedule that we discussed as far as, both design as well as moving forward this fall for, the hopeful approval and steps to moving to construction and opening of the building in August of 2025. So with that, I might keep it just on this floor plan, which is the most current layout. And I would really open it up to questions that all of you may have for me and Drew.
Jeff, I was just looking at this preliminary schedule. Do you still feel that we're on time with that? We're still going to be on target for staying on the schedule you have listed here?
Yes, I have spoken to all both our team as well as the consultants. The architectural team is actively working on the project right now. May will be a very important month. Most notably, those 2 rounds of the interiors meetings that I spoke of. It's critical that we meet with the teachers, obviously, before everybody disperses for the summer. Sometimes we can meet with some groups in the summer, but we want to make sure that we have those 2 rounds of meetings, which should be straightforward here. This isn't an example would be a middle school or high school. There's really a smaller list of spaces. So that will be very important for the month of May. The civil engineering has also started with the survey and with the geotechnical. Those are also two long lead items that is occurring. So those have been started. And then we have discussed with, I'm not worried about the structural engineer. The mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineer has also, who's the other entity that, you know, often has long lead items, has factored it into their staffing as well. So the short answer for you is that I sort of just bulleted those, but each of the team members is aware of the schedule and is committed to meeting what is up on the screen currently. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So
Any other questions?
You want to go first, Butch, or?
No, the other thing I saw, I just noticed the date wrong, but he fixed on his slide, but not on ours. So.
If,
The construction dates you have.
well,
on-
th-
Yeah.
that's because this one was uploaded about 15 minutes before the meeting. So if you haven't logged back in and refreshed, you're seeing the old one.
Yeah, I think everything's looking good. The timeline, I think it's gonna be tight, but I think it's doable.
Is that-
Some-
Okay, may we please go back to the floor plan? Thank you.
Definitely.
Now, I think we all understand that when you're doing an overview, that we can't really take dimensions per se. But Mark, can you see his screen? Oh, you got, it? Okay. I'm sure it's already on your radar, but I just want to, I just want to hear, I just have to say it. When you're on the south side of the property along the creek side, which would be your bottom of the page,
Okay.
the residential borderline there between the district, okay. I'm assuming that when you finalize where you can actually place the building, you're gonna have enough space so a vehicle or a truck can still drive on that side of the property, right? In case like of emergency or something, right?
Correct. Normally you need a
I
30
know.
foot.
Just wanted to hear you say it.
Yeah, correct. Normally you have to have a 30-foot setback.
Sure,
Correct.
sure. Okay, thank you so much.
This is it.
And the only other thing I'm concerned about, or not concerned, but, and thank you so much for taking our comments and utilizing was workable. But I just don't understand why we're not adding another room. I mean, I understand budget, but I'm just saying if in the future, if they want to add an extra room on, which I will call the right side of the page by the play area, I mean, to get the facilities there, everything else, is that sort of gonna be in the plan that, you know, the pipes, everything, so in the future, if they did want to add on, they could without having tearing up floors, and has that been discussed at all?
Well, you will see on this screen at the end of the 2 classroom wings, we are showing highlighted in red dashed line potential future additions. We have not had that discussion with the engineering team yet,
Okay,
but
fair
we
enough.
will have discussions of how would we stub out lines for future expansion. And I can make sure that we have, you know, we can,
Sure.
we will plan on that, but I'll make sure to highlight that, me and Drew.
Okay. Thank you so much. And my last question is, and you know, I'm just curious. Maybe it's gonna happen when the geotechnical or the engineer comes in, but please just let us know the bridge, the condition of the bridge and the maximum estimated weight limit on the bridge, and whether or not that may or may not be a factor for any construction vehicles, et cetera, okay? That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, and if we own it. I'm assuming we do. There's a benchmark thing on it, but thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Or if not, we're wrapped up for the day on our end.
Anybody
The only
else?
question I had, I know with the change in the bathrooms, something I can see on the bathrooms in the 2, 3, 4 wing. the hand washing station in the hallway. That was important to many of our board members and folks that looked at that model. But I don't see that on the current drawing with the bathrooms by the auditorium. And I just wanted to say, if it's still possible to have that feature there,
Oh,
I feel like it was pretty important to this group.
yeah, hand washing got very important.
Definite good point. Right now,
Thank
we
you.
really, in this model, again,
Not
this is
there,
the
but not
more
there.
schematic level. The restrooms are just boxed out. We will definitely have them open on that end, and it's
Okay.
good to say that in front of me and Drew, and just sort of reemphasizes that yes, we will
Great.
incorporate what you saw in some of your walkthroughs.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
then, thank you so much. And then I just wanted to say that we have a schedule that Brett has worked on with the architects for the classroom teachers and the staff members and various things, as well as the appropriate directors. Food services is on there, and of course, all the related arts areas, PE, art, music, STEM, and so forth are all included, along with not just the teachers, but also the district program leaders of those departments are included in the voice of looking at the plan. And obviously Sharon Berger is included with the food services and the cafeteria space, along with the cafeteria manager. So, and the teachers split up, and where one staff member is going to attend the, the classroom look, and one, their counterpart for the grade level is going to stay with the children so that we can do this without bringing substitutes in for the day, and find a way to get that accomplished. I've been part of these meetings before. I have it on my calendar. I want to at least be there for the morning. And then I think we have a commitment at 12:30 for the teacher inquiry projects, but I think it's fun to be there for me to listen to what the teachers have to say, so that we can also help understand those pieces, and I've been through it before. And I think it's just really valuable when the architects hear from the end user, the people who are going to be in those spaces every day. So I just want to also just ensure the board that people are being included in the process, even though it feels like it's going rapid at this point. It is scheduled. And that's all I
Well,
have.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear, I know that they've been involved, but it sounds like we're trying to involve as many people that are going to be impacted by the design of this building as possible. And I think Brett's done a good job of including as many people in that as you possibly can. So that's important, to get feedback, input from everybody that's going to be using this facility. So
May I ask one last question, please? I'm if I can, I'm gonna go to the Bellefonte Middle School project, the presentation tonight. Have you seen their design? Or have you any comments about it, or?
No, I'm not involved in the Bellefonte Middle School projects.
Right.
I don't know
Okay,
that. I'm sorry.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
all right, anything else? Sounds like next month's going to be a real key month here for the whole project. Got a lot of things will be done.
Exciting.
And it's starting
Thank
to
you
get
for
there.
your support of this from the board. It's without your support, we can't get these things chipped off the facility project list or anything. So thank you so much for what you're putting in. I know it's a lot of extra time and reading on your part, so thank you.
Well, if we have nothing else for Jeff, I thank you two gentlemen for being with us this afternoon and bringing us up to speed on where we are with the project to date.
Okay.
And
Well, thank you. We'll sign off now, and we'll follow up with the administration. Thank you.
Okay,
You know what's interesting is if that squishy
How do you want to
land-
hit?
Oh, she